Hello, I'm Sanique, an animal health technician, and today we're at Glasgow and we're going to tag some cows.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rhonda Bennett. We're here in Glasgow. We're just waiting for the farmer to carry in the cattle from out of the hills, and then we'll be tagging some cattle today.
So, tagging of the cattle, like how many cattle is it approximately for this morning?
Approximately 100 heads of cattle today.
100.
Approximately. Could be more, could be less.
And just to confirm, you all drove to this venue, this place today early in the morning. You probably left home at about 5:30?
Yes, we did.
Right.
Yes, we did.
And Ornella, out of curiosity, is it that every time you're on the field that you all have to drive and visit new places?
Yes, basically, yes.
It's a lot of fun, I suppose.
We have to make it fun. This job, you have to have a sense of humor.
So,
It's hard labor, but we enjoy what we do.
Yeah, and use the initiative all the time, and you have to be very quick when you're dealing with the cattle, right?
the question I have that probably the viewers are trying to figure out is, I'm with 3 young ladies going to tag cattle. So I'm just going to ask you the question to get it out of the way. Is it that the animal health technicians and the veterinary services department of the ministry, is it that it's concentrated with a lot of young women, which is good, it's positive, and probably I'm just curious to know, is it that you all always had the ambition to pursue a career in animal care?
All of us had dreams of aspirations to deal with animals, taking care of animals. So yes, I suppose for all of us,
Right,
yeah, we all wanted to take care of animals, but in terms of the industry that we're in, veterinary services division, I would say it's 50-50, half males, half females, just that for this specific parish, it's female dominated. Right.
And I'm just asking, maybe it sounds silly to you all, but I guess I'm just curious to know, are there any cases where farmers might be sexist or prejudiced towards you all, or is it the opposite? What usually happens when they meet you for the first time?
A little twist. Sometimes they say, no males, and we're like, no, we don't have any males today, but we can do the job effectively.
Right.
I mean, sometimes they're extremely skeptical, but based on their skepticism, we prove them wrong. So we are getting the job done.
So it's an opportunity to shine.
Right. They warm up to us after they realize we are more than capable of doing the job.
Right.
And just to confirm, you all got your training not from UE, but from another tertiary institute in Jamaica, and that's CASE, right?
Yes,
Right.
the College of Agriculture, Science and Education.
And you all probably met there and then you came on to the government service.
Right, correct.
Okay,
correct.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what are we Oh. Okay.
So there are a few of the cattle that are tagged. The ones that I'm showing you here, I think they're the ones that are tagged already. But then these here, they have to be brought to this area. What is this called? Like a paddock?
No, this
What's
is
the term for this?
A holding pen with a squeeze chute. So
Okay.
it's a narrow area for them to bottleneck through so that we're easily able to put a rope on them, restrain them, and then tag them.
Okay, thank you. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Sitaram, welcome to Cooking with Madho. I am in Hanover, as was said earlier, Hanover, Jamaica, one of the many parishes that is responsible for dairy production and even meat production or beef production in Jamaica, along with St. Elizabeth, arguably, and even St. Anne. It is a mainstay. And in this episode, I show you the animal health technicians, 3 brave ladies, ambitious, hardworking, as they go through their paces in tagging at least 100 cows. So we see a cow here that is in the kind of paddock. I forgot the technical term that the lady said. It was like a race, I think. And the cows go through here in single file for efficiency reasons. And sometimes the race could be a lot, more efficient, perhaps stronger in build. I was told that this farm will be improving its infrastructure very soon. And there is a level of efficiency in single filing of the animals. And what happens is a tag is placed on the ears of the cow. And the purpose of this for identification is to do several things. Number one, enumeration of the animal, so that you actually know a number, like a passport number, and identification of each animal. Now, this is important for tracking of food in terms of beef content, or also dairy milk content in the future, so we could always track back, for example, where milk comes from if it is sold commercially. So you could always track it back to certain farms to know that the quality of the product is optimum and there is no health risk or health problem with the animal. Enumeration and tagging also allows the government agencies, the Ministry of Agriculture and veterinary services specifically, to really kind of counter disease. For example, there were instances of mad cow disease in the past, and it's really important to know just how many animals might exist in the country in certain farms, and therefore if there are disease outbreaks, it is important to know whether these animals can be quickly identified per farm, per district, per parish. And the job of this is really the job of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and Forest Departments, but it is also spearheaded by the Rural Agricultural Department as well. So there's a kind of coordinated initiative here to make sure that whilst food security is being promoted, for example, in terms of milk, there is that agenda of making sure we know exactly where the cows are. We see a very aggressive cow here trying to get out of the reins, out of that actual race. And this is not uncommon, and it really highlights the challenges in handling some of these animals. Interestingly, one of the beauties of this farm is that it's definitely free range. It is located close to Grange Hill, Westmoreland, but it is officially, according to GPS, it's definitely still in Hanover proper. A stone's throw away, or virtually small drive away from Sanique. These were post-emancipation villages, and definitely I think what would have happened is, whilst agriculture, even in the post-emancipation years, would have retained a lot of sugarcane production, there was also diversification into dairy and cattle. And that is the cow for the day. That is my pick of my favorite cow for the day. The somewhat white animal that you see is a Jersey. She should be a Jersey bred, unlike the Hope, the Jamaica Hope cattle you see in the background. And her name is Pet. Now, she could probably be maybe 100% Jersey or mixed bred, but by the look of it, she's a Jersey cow. I could be wrong. I stand to be corrected. When I did my research, most of the other cattle on the farm might be Jamaica Hope, which is a crossbred variety between Jersey, Zebu, and Holstein. And she's very vivacious. She's very gregarious. But when she knew that they were going to tag her, like a lot of animals, she had her own ideas. It was time to, clear out, because certainly Pet, as is her nickname, she got the memo early. So sometimes the animals are highly intelligent, very sensitive, and not really going to cooperate, especially if they're new to you. And these are some of the challenges and occupational hazards farm hands face. And definitely the Ministry of Agriculture workers, my friends, are well equipped, well trained, and definitely given proper protective equipment. But the question emerges, could more be done? Could more be done on farms to protect its workers? And I'm not even talking about incentivization of farmhands with higher pay. Maybe we need to question infrastructure. We need to wonder whilst it's beautiful to see farms that are, for example, perfectly free range across the island and across the Caribbean, the question emerges, do we need to have, better health and safety codes to protect our workers in the dairy and cattle industry? And also, do we need to have better facilities for our animals as well? Because people talk about animal rights, but there's also the concept of animal welfare. So whilst animals like cows have the right to a decent standard of living, free range, is it that they have the welfare to always be treated right and prioritized in terms of access to several hours out in the free range? Do they have the right or the welfare? Their welfare must always be prioritized beyond just access to grass, but also in terms of socialization and breeding processes. And more than that, linked to that is humane treatment of animals. I couldn't help but notice the tremendous effort of farmhands that are generally humane towards the animals and my friends from the ministry. But it begs the question again, like, could more be done to promote a more humane rearing of animals, just like this farm has generally done? We see some real cowboys in action there, some farmhands. I was told the guy on top, he also is a farmer, a rancher in Westmoreland, close to Negril. And he's very good at maneuvering and getting cattle in. There's an art and technique to this called driving. But sometimes driving goes bad. And sometimes all the Jamaica hope in the world, this hope cattle here, is very belligerent. Not stubborn as a mule, but as stubborn as a Jamaican hope cattle could be, not bull. And it was really interesting to see how sensitive she was to the process of being tagged. Again, questions emerge across the world about what is the best, most humanitarian or the best way to treat the animal. But what happened is she had to be treated on her own. She had to get out of that like paddock or the race, and she was taken to a tree because of her recalcitrant behavior seen here. And it actually caused a lot of challenges for one of the farmhands who tripped in his attempt at controlling her. So the cow did jump over the moon. Right, the cow does jump over the moon. It's not just a theory. When I visited this farm, I saw the athleticism of cows, and she's now going to be controlled here with a contraption that is called a nosebleed, and it's really just to kind of put into the nose. Now, I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong term, but it is a nose contraption for sure. And it's meant to kind of control her movements, keep her restricted. And, again, this is not the prettiest sight. It is not what my friends would have wanted. They would have wanted an easy transition. And reasons they told me that this could happen is because sometimes animals are new to being domesticated and controlled and meeting farm hands. And in this case, visitors like Veterinary Services Department. So some animals are extra sensitive. Some of them are not accustomed to being handled, especially since they are free range. And, they tend to be very sensitive. So an interesting thing is the reason why the camera footage just goes haywire is because I did have to, quickly run and avert my filming as she eventually fell to the ground. And after tagging her there, they left her to lie down until she made her decision to eventually get up. Right? So this is one of the unique cases of challenges. Out of 100 plus cows that they had to manage, they kind of gave her freedom in the end and just let her to blow off steam. And it was really scary because I was actually perched on a hillock just above her, and I could hear her breathing hard. And whilst initially I was scared, I realized that the animal was also probably scared interacting with people. So, it makes you wonder that you could raise a few animals as pets, but then when you're raising 100 or 200 animals for commercial processes, there's a level of livestock rearing that kind of brings with it a certain protocol. And generally, I was impressed with the humane treatment by my friends, definitely, and the farm hands. But, you know, it's interesting to monitor animal welfare rights. It is interesting to monitor whether or not free-range cows that are better treated, given longer times to enjoy their youth before being bred, if that will actually allow for, you know, a better quality animal that will produce even a higher quality grade of milk. And, you know, that's really important. You will see here some big animals, some of the bulls just coming out there. That's probably a 2,000-pound bull, a breeder, several years old. This farm is very proud to know that it has some big breeders, and some of these breeders have lofty ambitions to get themselves into the herd and, you know, procreate and go forth and multiply. So it's always very important for the farm hands, I was told, to kind of separate some of these overly ambitious bull from the innocent heifers that apparently might be there for plunder. And So some animals like that cute little cow we saw,
already for this one?
about 1 year old in the
So
race, you know,
once the tag goes in,
she
you
was
get the
just being
number.
pacified.
It's pre-written because we follow the sequence.
Okay.
The number follows a specific sequence. So this is 107, 18, 11.
Right.
And it follows 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and it continues down. So I know the sequence that's being used already.
Okay. Cows were introduced to Jamaica by the Spanish conquistadors, dating back to Columbus's time. And when the British took over, they kept on producing cattle, mainly for meat reasons. But by roughly 1910, the vision of Dr. Lecky in crossbreeding animals for milk purposes and even meat was prioritized. And this is where Jamaica excelled not just in the Brahman cow, but also in the Jamaica Hope variety, Red Bull or Jamaica Red variety. So Jamaica also has a lot of farming of cattle. As I leave you, I want to thank Sanique Bennett, Rhonda Bennett, and Ornella for showing me this day, this farm in Jamaica. It was a privilege being here and working alongside the farm hands, or at least filming and watching the excellence and dignified work of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries Department. The verse for Milinge, bye bye, Chalgayo, Kodafiz.